Don't forget to read the disclaimer. Hello my friends, this is Wakeangel2001 coming at you with the long-awaited Top 10 Customs of 2019. But first, I want to do some honorable mentions. And unlike last time, these honorable mentions aren't based on votes, but rather based on whether or not I have an interesting story to tell about them, even if they didn't get enough votes to appear in the top 10. So let's get started with that. The Saturday morning styled Sonic and Sally. Yes, this is basically recreating a small part of my childhood, and this does remain one of my favorite cartoons ever. When I went to Rhode Island Comic Con, I got to meet Jaleel White, and I had him autograph an old piggy bank I had from that era, as well as my DVD set, and I did show him the pictures of the figures that I had made, and he did think that they were kind of cool looking. So, you know, I got praise from the original voice actor, so, you know, there's that going for him. Metal Amy. I'm really proud of that effect part. Yeah, like, this isn't the first time I sculpted fire. I did do the edge of Blaze Woman's tail, but this is like a really big fire effect part for a huge afterburner, and I was really proud of the way it came out, so there's that. Then Infinite. Yes, I did make another Infinite figure this year, and I feel like it was the best one I ever made, mostly because I didn't have to worry about a removable mask gimmick. He did get a few votes, but he didn't make enough to reach the top 10, which is why I want to bring it up here, because I'm still really proud of this particular Infinite figure over all the others. Egg Mario! Yes, this is a custom that I made for a friend of mine, good old Speed Up Jesse, aka Medicom Collector. He is still working on his 100 Mario challenge. I think he recently passed the 80 Mario point, so here's to hoping that he succeeds in making that full 100 Mario thing. Mimic the Octopus. Yes, this goes way back to the very first custom action figure I ever made, who was Scourge the Hedgehog, a villain exclusive to the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book. So making my first villain for the new Sonic the Hedgehog comic book was always going to be a special milestone for me, even though he is the third IDW character that I've made. Dark Enerjack. He didn't get really high up in the rankings, but come on, this is just frickin' Dark Enerjack. He has one of the coolest designs ever. So there's no way that I was gonna let the year go by without mentioning how cool it was that I got to make another one of these. I mean, not a lot of people ask about stuff from the comic books these days anymore, because, you know, like, the audience always remains relatively young, and not everyone are a bunch of old Sonic spinsters like me that get nostalgic for the past. Alright, and now one last one, a little bit of a controversial one. This was Summer. Summer was a very cute little cat girl character that I was very happy to make, just like the hundreds of other fan characters. This one, however, was pretty notable in that it drew the attention of an asshole. Yeah, some dumbass from one of my galleries posted a hate comment about it, like saying that I do infantile fetish art because I'm a Sonic fan, and he hates the Sonic community. It turns out that he is a furry fetishist that really hates that there's people that draw Sonic artwork because he feels like that hurts the furry fandom, that people are into anthropomorphic characters that aren't, you know, furries like him. Somebody should have clued him on the fact that his little sex fetish kind of comes from these cartoons and not the other way around. So this one got negative attention, but the fact that I really got to tell that asshole off before I blocked him really filled me with some self-satisfaction. So thanks, Summer. You gave me an opportunity to tell off an asshole. Alright, so now it's time for the real top 10. Of course, when my poll stagnated a bit after somewhere around 200 votes or so, I decided to take the ones that had the most votes at that point and put them up in a secondary poll. But only 59 people voted in the secondary poll. So this year, like, I don't really have a definitive 10-to-1 there's actually way more ties than I would have been comfortable with. But I'm not going to leave this poll up any longer, so I just wanted to let you know that at the bottom of the new ranking was the Wedding at Knothole Cake Topper. I've made lots of Sonic and Sally cake toppers, Sonic and Amy cake toppers before, only one of which was Sonic and Sally, and this is the only wedding cake topper I've made so far that had a different setting. This one being based around Knothole rather than Green Hill. But hey, this is the one that kind of got eliminated. It was at the bottom of the secondary vote. So let's move on to the actual 10 figures that got the most votes. Number 10 and 9 were tied. They were Mecha Sonic and Ridley. Kind of funny that these two would tie because the characters are actually kind of similar. They're like they're big, powerful dudes that serve as either the ultimate or penultimate boss of a major game. Usually the only boss you face after Ridley is whatever the Omega Metroid is, or Ridley's usually like the second to last boss is what I'm trying to get at. Okay, these guys are just huge, powerful bosses compared to the main character. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? I am particularly proud of Ridley because I actually made two of him at the same time, because one was for myself. It had been a project I'd been putting off until someone commissioned one, and it was kind of cool that I got to I got to make them. Like, again, I can't believe the guy actually tracked down the exact same medical droid from Star Wars that I used to make my first Mecha Sonic figure, but he did it. And the Ridley figure was made from the aliens, which is also awesome. So yeah, that was number 10 and 9. Numbers 8, 7, and 6 were also a tie. See what I mean when there weren't enough people that voted? They were between Mighty the Armadillo, Emerald the Jizoid, and Metal Knuckles. Now, I don't really have much to say about Mighty. I mean, everybody always loves Mighty, and whenever I make one, he manages to make it onto these lists somehow. There's no problem with Mighty. He's a great guy, but I'm just baffled at how popular he seems to be all the time. Now, the Emerald figure I'm particularly proud of. I've made Emerald a few times before, along with other Jizoids, but this is the first time I actually had to make one out of a base toy that was compatible with the Jazzwares line, both in scale and articulation. It was the Mega Man Bullnut figure. Yeah, Mega Man Bullnut from the 66mm Bandai line. So this is also a really fun one to make, and I was really, really proud of the way he came out. And last but not least, Metal Knuckles. Now, this one had an awesome story in that it was from a little boy who wanted to get a Metal Knuckles figure for Christmas and couldn't comprehend that such figures don't exist except when I make them. So here we go. So I actually violated my own rules and took on a commission that was not normal, that I wouldn't normally do because my commissions were still closed. And it's also kind of cool because this is the first time I specifically made a 3D printed part just for a custom figure, which in this case is the forearms of this figure. So that was super fun, and I got a chance to be a little bit of a Santa Claus because I got to make a Christmas present for a kid. So this one made me particularly happy. 5 was Larry Lynx. And this was quite the upset. In the first poll, he was in the top 10, but he was much lower down. And actually, Mighty was in this spot. But once I made the secondary poll, all of a sudden, Mighty got downgraded, and Larry got a whole bunch more votes than he had previously. I guess with a lot of the people that voted for other figures really liked Larry, and then when their figures got eliminated by the second poll, they turned their votes to him. I'm actually pretty surprised Larry had such a uptick in popularity because I was convinced that not a lot of people even knew that he was a thing. But, he's a member of the Secret Freedom Fighters, and he'd been part of the Sonic the Hedgehog comics since, well, the early issues when it was still more or less based off of the Adventures cartoon rather than the Saturday morning cartoon. And this is actually the first time I'd ever made a toy of him. And it's in his standard fare rather than his Secret Freedom Fighter costume. So, points for Larry. I mean, that is just the most innocuous name. Like, and the winner is Larry. Good old Larry. I mean, that's literally the name you give to a character when you don't want them to be special. Number 4 is Rouge the Bat. I made Rouge twice last year, and decided to only list one of them, the fully 3D printed one, because people seem to prefer that one, since I didn't want the votes to be split for her. But man, is this super popular. I mean, not only is Rouge a super popular character, not only is the fact that this one is almost entirely 3D printed except for the joints, which, a lot of people like the whole 3D printing thing because that's kind of a cool technology. And also, at least a few people liked her because I featured my cousin Raven, whom this was a gift for, in the video, and a lot of people seem to like her too. So, yeah. Suffice to say that there was a big conflagration of popular things that led to this character getting so many votes in both polls. Now, the real question that baffles me to no end is why do we not have an official Rouge action figure? Jazzwares almost got around to making it but lost the contract. Tomy never got around to it. And now that Jakks Pacific has it, like, even if it was just a bendy, I would buy a bendy of Rouge because just to prove that there's a market for Rouge. I don't understand why there seems to be such a huge disconnect between the fandom and the people that make the merchandise. Because given the huge popularity of this character, you'd think that there would be a ton more merchandise to capitalize on said popularity. I don't get why we don't have more Rouge stuff. Number 3 and number 2 were another tie, and this is an interesting bookend one. They're the Eggwalker and Movie Sonic. The Eggwalker was the first thing that I finished in 2019, and Movie Sonic was one of the last. But in addition to that contrast, there are also almost polar opposites in what a custom is. The Eggwalker was a heavy scratch build that was a challenge and took me a long time, while Movie Sonic was a relatively simple custom that I finished in like a day or so. It's so weird that these two ended up with the same number of votes because they're so polar opposite from each other. But the people like them, and I like them too. In fact, there was only one thing that I made last year that people liked more than these two figures, and they liked it a lot more because the number 1 option this year got way more votes than either of the ones from number 2, almost as much as the two of them combined. Number 1 was Whisper the Wolf. Man, I really went all out making this custom, and that kind of makes me happy that so many people chose her as the number 1. Like, I gave her 2 alternate masks, one that she could wear and one that she could put on her head. I went through all the trouble of making that wisp on, which involved bending a fairly stiff wire with a pair of pliers. I managed to get my hands on another Blaze figure to use as a base when Blaze is actually pretty hard to come by. So everything about this figure, like even getting some of the parts to work together, because I had to do some scary mods to Amy's legs to get them to fit in a Blaze body. But, this figure came out fantastic, and it's one of the ones that I'm the most proud of. And the fact that all of you guys voted for her to be the number 1, that's that feels pretty special to me. Of course, this is another one of the IDW characters, so it's nice to see that a character introduced in IDW continuity is getting love, because a lot of people don't really seem to take much mind to the IDW comic, which is a shame because it's done by the same people that did the Archie comic. So, anyone that likes that writing and artistic team should still be with them because you do want to support the same artists, right? But yeah, like the comic is getting really exciting now. So the fact that consciousness is raised by my custom, like, I just really like that. So that was the long-awaited top 10 Wakeangel 2001 customs of 2019. What will the top 10 of 2020 be? Well, that's a journey that we're all gonna go on together. Thank you for watching, and here's to more customs for 2020, and hopefully the reopening of my commission sometime in February.